Welcome home. It's November 29th, and the episode title is the World of Darkness in Trouble Again? Eric Blenley won the RPG Publisher Spotlight. The interview is live on the site. Eric's latest Kickstarter, Filth Below Gallows Ford, has successfully funded, and with nearly 300 backers. We know Eric has lots of ideas for 2026, including a complete campaign and printed scenarios. So we will see him crowdfunding next year. It is nearly the end of the month, and if you are a patron, then there is still time to vote on the December shortlist. Or if you miss that, you could be voting on the first spotlight of 2026. For December, though, the candidates are Media Stream Press, Lord ZZ Works, Dark Platypus Studio, Gear Games, and The Basic Fantasy Project. This podcast asks whether the World of Darkness is in trouble, so let's go there first. For context, the World of Darkness is the setting for famous RPGs like Vampire and Werewolf. In 2006, CCP Games bought White Wolf Publishing, scooping up all the World of Darkness games. CPP published the famous MMO EVE Online, and they spent years trying to make a World of Darkness MMO work. And then, about 10 years later, in 2015, Paradox Interactive bought the White Wolf from CCP. And once again, the computer games publisher wanted to use the World of Darkness for computer games. And a few years later, Geek Native was blogging about the gameplay trailer for Bloodlines 2. It's not been plain sailing. In that time, there has been drama about editions of the tabletop games being too edgy, perhaps trying to cash in on actual and contemporary human suffering, and at the same time attracting the wrong sort of interest from far-right elements. The company outsourced the production of World of Darkness tabletop games with mixed success to various publishers. Then, earlier this year, Paradox announced it would be taking all development of the World of Darkness in-house. They appointed the respected Jess Lanzalo as the new creative director. LinkedIn says she's still there. However, Bloodlines 2 has been very painful to make and was not as successful as Paradox needed. And this week, the publisher officially wrote down 355 million Swedish krona as a loss on the game. That's about £26 million. Frederick Wester, the CEO of Paradox Interactive, said of Bloodlines, "This game is outside of our core areas. In hindsight, it is clear that this has made it difficult for us to gauge sales. Going forward, we will focus our capital to our core segments, and at the same time, we will evaluate how best to develop World of Darkness' strong brand catalogue in the future." Let's hope that decision in May to bring White Wolf back to life was made in conjunction with this evaluation of the World of Darkness. It would certainly make selling the tabletop publishing unit easier to do. Now, Paradox has essentially said that they are not going to be investing in games like Bloodlines again. They're going to think about what to do with the World of Darkness as a whole. The other story that made me worry this week is hopefully a false alarm. The UK has announced it will set a charge for all items shipped in from abroad, even those costing less than £135. Currently, anything less than £135 is exempt from customs duty. At face value, this might mean that backing a board game on Kickstarter will now also mean paying customs duty. There are 3 howevers coming up, so let's go each in turn. These changes will come into effect in 2029 if plans go without a hitch. However, the customs duty on board games is currently 0, and there are no plans to change that. So paying 0% in customs duty on 2029 is the same as being exempt from customs duty in 2025. However, if your Kickstarter pledge has t-shirts, dice trays, dice or extras like that, those will have customs to pay. However, suppose the couriers who have to shuffle all the paperwork find the process way more complex than before. In that case, there may well be blanket increases in processing fees regardless of the official customs duty. It hasn't been all researching British trade law just for the sake of one blog post, and that's a blog post in which I remind readers that I cannot offer financial advice. I also spent ages researching Old English for one blog post. The post in question argues that Old English is perfect for D&D and fantasy settings. You see, I learnt this week that Botard, aka Bookhord, is the Old English for library. I found some sites online that offer other translations, and although I will struggle with the pronunciation of some of the weirder words, I have some examples for you. Shields, or some of them, can be called rands, and there are swords that can be called bills. Bards can be called shops, and healers can be called la truche. And yes, this is where we get the word from leech. Anyway, I have more tables of translations on the blog, and I have cited my sources, so you can be confident that I am not an AI making this up. Mistakes here are entirely human. Speaking of which, I looked at the quick start to Ted Hayes' Sentience RPG. The idea here is that you are playing an android and you've become self-aware, but society does not believe you, and so you've got your programming and society to fight on your way to freedom. I also looked at the quick start for Broken Lands from Carlos Ferreira, which is also set after a fall of sorts, but is a fantasy setting. The Broken Lands themselves are an area between two superpowers that are growing tense with one another. I am hoping that by reviewing quick starts, I can look at more TTRPGs each month and make a few recommendations, and both of the above classify. This approach, I hope, will be swifter and cheaper than buying whole RPGs, which I always struggle to find the time to read. I did find the time to write up 2 bundle of holding offers. There's the Magical Land of Yeld, 2nd edition, in which characters have to get home before they turn 13. And there's also the Thanksgiving themed Cornucopia 2025 with some great games in it, including the full rules for Sentience. But there's also Doomsong, Punk is Dead, and Break, plus more. On that note, take care, and I'll see you next week as we start the last month of 2025.